So in my last video and the videos before that, people commented on my planer thickness. Now I know this is such a nice machine, but I do know as well that most of you do not have the funding or the space for a machine like that. So I'm going to be talking about cheaper options, how to avoid tear out and why tear out happens, how to perfectly flatten your boards, and how to get a perfect glue joint right off the jointer. So please enjoy this video, and I've got a little bonus tip as well at the end. So starting right off with a common misconception is grain direction, and as you can see here, you would say I'm going with the grain, but actually I'm getting quite some tear out, and that is because you don't always know where it's going. So getting a chisel and chiseling away at the corner is sometimes a good indication on which way the grain is going. So once you've got that, you make a marking on how you're going to plane or thickness your board without getting tear out. A very important step as well is cleaning your surfaces. So the beds of the planer or thicknesser have to be absolutely dust free and rust free. You can use beeswax as well to make the surface even more smooth, but this is a step I would certainly not skip, because you want the wood to just slide through the planer as smooth as possible. And for cheaper options, one of the most important things is the feet of the planer. So you want the feet to be mountable onto a hard surface. This is quite important for having less vibrations than it would if you were to put it on loose. So if the planer is mountable, that would be a perfect beginning point of a cheap planer. Then you should look at the knives as well, if the fence is on there and adjustable. And I would just recommend looking at the reviews as well before getting a machine like that. And often the price does tell you a bit of what the quality is going to be like. Something I do recommend though before investing in a planer or thicknesser is just to buy a good dust collection, because the dust has to be collected and you want it to be done well so the dust particles don't come in the air. This is a very important step as well, is that you saw me take over from one side of the planer to the other with my hands. This is to push through the wood, so if there's any warp or bow on the other side, you don't push it through the planer. This is very important because otherwise you're going to take a lot of material off on one side instead of the other, and then when thicknessing the board, of course, you're going to thickness it parallel to the other side, so keep that in mind when doing this. I like to start with a line on both sides I've planed already, so when I go to the thicknesser I know exactly where to start. Here I'm going to show exactly how the grain is orientated, so when gluing up a board, which you will see in the next clip, you want to orientate the grain opposite of each other. So if the table were to warp, then it wouldn't warp in just a bow or cup, but it would sort of wave, which is very over dramatic, but that is the best way to glue up a board. The tools I'm using here are going to be in the description. I use these for nearly all my glue ups because the glue squeezy doesn't stick to the glue, so you can just take it off when it's dry. And I'm using a glue bot, which is available on Amazon, and that really just helps to quickly glue up these small boards. This is something I haven't seen anyone do, and maybe they have, but it's really handy when you have a planer that isn't wide enough or thicknesser for boards of a certain width, that you just cut the boards through the middle, you neglect warp, then you can plane the surfaces and glue them back up together with, well, you will have a glue line, but by the end of this video you know how to do that. So that is one way to not have to plane your boards and take a lot of without a CNC or a big planer. And for those who don't want to invest in a planer or thicknesser or any machine, you can just go to a woodworking shop and ask them if they can do it for you. And if you use a glue that dries up hard, I do really recommend taking off the glue drips. This just expands the lifetime of your blades. You probably noticed that the boards I glued up at the beginning, I didn't run through the thickness yet, so I do that afterwards to keep the stock as thick as possible. If you have the fundings or you're going professional, I do really recommend getting one of these helical head planer or thicknessers because they are very silent. You can change out one cutter if you hit some screw, and if you were to hit a screw on one of the longer blades, which was used back in the day or still is being used, then you need to change out the whole blade. So yeah, if you do have the fundings, I really do recommend that. And for a version I've already used back in the day when I was still in my shed is this DeWalt planer. They are about 800 euros. I think with the helical head it would be 1200 or 1000 euros. But in the end of this video I'm going to show you how to use the thicknesser as a planer as well, which would possibly make it worth it for you. This is a perfect example of why I need a good dust collection. I put mine off for the sake of showing it in this video, but you can imagine, like, I've just taken off about 2 to 3 millimeters of a board that is 1.5 meters long, and this is all the shavings and the dust I've already gotten, so I do really recommend getting that dust collected. And depending on hardness and the figure of the board, I tend to take 1 to 3 millimeters off per pass. I'm going to show you one of the things not to do with your planer or thicknesser, and if you do it, how to do it correctly. So I never ever plane end grain on my thicknesser or planer. It's just, yeah, pretty stupid to be honest. Do this with a CNC, so with a flattening bit or a drum sander. That is the only thing I suggest to do. Now, this cut looks okay, but believe me, it isn't. It's really a pain in the ass to sand away, and it just really is bad for your knives. Alright, so, oh my god. Alright, so before I end this video, I've got one more or two more bonus tips, and one of them is these curls. These are formations in wood that happen when the tree grows under stress. So you really want to plane and thickness your boards very slowly when you see any type of curl. Alright, and for the last bonus tip, if you're thinking about buying a planer or thicknesser, I do recommend getting only the thicknesser. This is because you can use your thicknesser as a planer as well. You use this by buying a sheet of multiplex or MDF, just a flat material. I would recommend multiplex though, it's more stable and you can use it for a longer period of time. And you have the width of the thickness. So say it's 30 centimeters, you can buy or cut a piece of multiplex to size. Then after that, you can put on your wood, shim it from both sides if it's warped, and you can hot glue it or maybe use screws that go inwards. I wouldn't recommend using screws, but if you have to, I do recommend hot glue on both sides. Gets it nice and tight, and it shouldn't be able to warp anymore. And then you can ride it through. If one side's flat, you take it off, you just turn it around, and you can use it as a normal thicknesser. Now as well, keep in mind when having a thicknesser, you cannot put any small wood in because you have the beams that push the wood through, so I recommend 30 to 35 centimeters minimal. Alright, so that was the end of this video. Please like and subscribe if you liked it, and dislike if you disliked it. Let me know in the comment section down below what you want to see next, on which tool, and the longer format video will be coming very soon on a very cool project. So stay tuned, and thank you for watching.